And now when I have an urge to message someone that like it's just like scattered, like it's nothing very urgent, I either message myself or I email myself all my random thoughts, and then at the end of the day, I create like a concise email of like, okay, these are all the marketing things or like sales things that I thought of. Here it is, like what the idea is, the reason why, and the expected deadline or how important it is.
All right.
So that they have, because otherwise they were like, I don't know what this even means.
And today we're welcoming / preparing to learn from Victoria Thayer of Novi CPA. And Victoria, it's been a year.
It's been a year,
And
yes.
I was just joking / gloating for you with a friend today that I met with them. And I said, I'm meeting with Victoria again today. And I'm super excited because she's CPA. It's been in business a year. And she actually has employees. Most CPAs that I know, it takes them decades. And some of them just stay themselves, or maybe their kid joins out with them or something like
Right.
that. So I'm excited to talk about growth with you today.
Yes, no, I'm excited too. Thank you so much for having me here
Yeah.
again. It's a pleasure. Like you say, it has been like a year. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like not that long ago.
No, it goes fast. It goes
We
fast.
were having too much fun. Yes.
Yeah. So tell me, how many employers are you up to now?
We are up to 8. Yeah.
8.
Uh-huh.
And are they all
So
accountants?
including me, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're all accountants.
We have 2 kind of like more on our admin team.
Okay.
They are in charge of marketing, like the sales funnel, all of that fun stuff.
So man, this just gets cooler because you're a CPA firm that actually has people in marketing.
Yes, yeah, I know, yes, which is so interesting to me because if you look at like socials or SEOs for CPA firms, it's not usually where they tend to like invest money on.
Not even a little bit.
So that has really allowed us to tap into that like kind of like market of like the new leaders and new like businesses are looking for CPAs, not only like in a newspaper or things like that. Now they're looking at LinkedIn. Okay, who are my connections? Who is coming up as like a relevant person in the industry? So LinkedIn has been wonderful for us. And again, we put a lot of blogs. We have a newsletter. Actually, I think we actually reached to 800 subscribers recently for a newsletter from a CPA firm. That, come on.
Yeah, no one's jumping at that. Yes, tell me more about numbers and taxes.
Right. So yeah, no, it has been incredible. I mean, I cannot take ownership on the success. Our marketing team, like Shayla and Haley, have been wonderful. They have incredible ideas. Shayla actually is getting her master's now in UX design. So that's like user interface design.
Yeah.
So all of what she does with our website or client portal, the whole experience that we try to kind of like come up for the customer is really well throughout. Like we try to really make sure that their experience from the moment that they sign an engagement letter is like, hey, this is your welcome package. This is like little tutorials on how to use your client portal, trying to make it as easy as possible because come on, like numbers are already kind of frustrating.
Sure.
No one wants to do taxes. So if we can make the process easier, then why not? And that really has helped us quite a bit.
That's incredible.
Yes.
You know what's funny? Because the same person I was gloating about you too. I said, this was actually a social media person that I was hiring for social media for my businesses because it's one of those things like, I should do that. I'm not gonna. It's just not gonna happen.
It always gets in the back of the burner.
I've been shooting for years, right? So it's time to hire a professional, get it done. And I was talking to her, I'm like, you gotta look at what Victoria is doing with Novi CPA on LinkedIn because I need that. Because when I go on LinkedIn, even if I'm on there for 10 seconds, like somebody messaged me, so you got to go on the platform. And you're like, hey, scroll, there's Victoria. Or there's Novi. And it's bizarre. I'm like, every time? Every time?
They are spamming me. They're following.
Yeah, so there's probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 people that I'm connected to where I'm almost guaranteed to see their stuff. And I thought for a moment, why don't I see other people's stuff? And you just pick a random person. It's like, oh, because they haven't posted in months.
Right.
And which I'm guilty of that as well.
Yeah.
Because it's not priority.
Right, exactly. Like it falls off in the priority list very quickly. Yeah.
But that's the name of the game with marketing, is to be top of mind.
Right, yes. And the other thing too is like whenever we think about marketing too, we think about short term and long term. So like our sales funnel, like, you know, like for a CPA firm, it's not as fast for us because we just don't do only taxes. So whenever like tax time comes, like there's people that only want the taxes, we don't do that. We do the whole kind of like financial statement, forecasting. So those type of clients usually have different decision makers. They are usually like taking a longer time to make a decision to switch. So for us, sometimes we're playing kind of like the long game. So we're trying to add value, stay relevant, and stay on front of all these different people. So sometimes it's like, yes, I mean, we do have a pretty good sales funnel, but we're always thinking about like, hey, we don't want to only invest for like short term, but also long term. Like, and we only not think that way for like customers, but also for future team members. So we just started like an internship program, and we are like making sure like right now we have an incredible intern. Her name is Megan, and she's amazing. She's studying like accounting at UW. She's going to become a junior. So what we're trying to do is also create a name, a brand name, and making sure that we also keep that pipeline for future hires, because as a new business owner, it's sometimes hard to, hey, like you may have a wonderful product and an amazing service, but if no one knows about it, besides your really inner circle, like your friends and close people, then it is harder to let others know. So that's why we're trying to do the marketing for short-term and long-term, as well as like recruiting as well, like making sure that like, hey, like Novi CPA is actually a brand. We're only having here like, I don't know, a year and 2 months, but we provide all these services, all this value. We have been able to like gather now testimonials from our current clients.
Awesome.
And that has been amazing because that's like the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
Of like, okay, we're adding value, people are happy, we have gotten a lot of referrals. So yeah, that has been just wonderful. Yeah, we're very, very excited.
That's cool. You got the social proof.
Yeah.
It's so interesting talking with you because you're a CPA that's actually got your head wrapped around the numbers and the business.
Business, yeah.
And most CPAs, maybe it's just the circle I'm talking to, but they don't market. Mm-hmm. They know numbers, and that's pretty much the extent of their knowledge base, which that's a lot. I mean, tax code's a big deal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yes, I think that when I was deciding before I started like thinking about like, do I want to start a business? That's one of the things that I want to think about. It's like, okay, and I kept reading about it. Like, no, because you're a great like person at doing like a cake, or like, for example, if I can be the best at 1040 returns, but that doesn't necessarily mean, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I may enjoy the other aspect, which again, it kind of like allowed me to kind of think throughout before I took the leap. And I was like, if I imagine and visualize myself having to deal with like prospecting, if I visualize myself doing all these things, does it bring me joy or does it bring me like a headache?
Oh, pain.
Yeah, pain, like kind of to visualize it ahead of time. For me, it was exciting. So that's why like for me, it has always been about like, okay, I love what we do. We have to have a great quality. And at the same time, my vision from the beginning was to have a business, not to be a self-employed person. So that's also something that we need to figure out when we're starting a business. And I have fellow CPAs that they like the lifestyle. They're like, you know what? I work from like January through April, a lot of hours, but then I'm just chilling, you know, and that's completely fine. We all want different things, and that's completely okay. But kind of asking yourself, what are your goals and what you're looking for? For me, it was to create a business. So eventually, I would love to have 0 billable hours. That's my end goal. I'm like, I just want to work on the vision, the strategies as a business owner, and not necessarily be in the weeds, which I have been able already to like extrapolate move away myself from like the very like in the weeds. So I just coming in now as like reviewing all the financials, more the higher level like advisory, forecasting services. So that has been wonderful too, because it has allowed me to really focus on the business. Which again, like sometimes it's easier said than done, you know.
Fair, totally fair.
Sometimes we get pulled into the weeds, but making sure that we always make time to focus on what will make our business move forward. Like kind of like the 80-20 rule, or the things that they say about like, we have things which again, as tax accountants, we sometimes have things that are urgent and important, like all the tax deadlines that we have, we're always like chasing after them. But there is also things that are important but not urgent, but that would definitely move our business forward. So making sure that we carve time to focus on that.
It's the marketing aspect.
The marketing, also like the recruiting efforts, and also things like creating SOPs, evaluating our current processes. I'm always looking at different tech stacks. Like again, like we think about like our tech as part of our team. So the client portal that we picked, the tax software that we picked, everything that we're using, like it's part of Novi. So I always make sure, like recently we started doing Loom videos. So Loom is this platform that allows you to record a video sharing your screen. So we noticed that when we were doing with financial statements, we were like, okay, like let's say like, hey Jim, here it is your financial statement. Once you see them, like let's schedule a call to go over them. Well, business owners, as you know yourself, they're busy. They're like, okay, I got them out. Yeah, that's falling off. It's not as important. You know, I have all these other things that I need to get done. So what we found out is that people were more likely to see it. Then we started doing like a little summary, like in the financials of like, hey, these are the highlights. Well, people were still not reading them. So we decided to do a video with this platform called Loom. So we record a little video saying like, hey, like 5 minutes or less, about 3 minutes of like, hey, these are like the big highlights of your financials. And we walk them through it, give them the why, what is their like percentage of growth, what are the main expenses, things like that. And it takes 3 minutes, we send them the link, and they have been watching it more, and we have been able to find out a way to add value to the clients. It's like, hey, you're paying for this, you really need to know these things, and then we let them know, hey, if you want to sit down and like even like dive deeper into this, like let's have a conversation. But it's things like that. So
yeah,
we're always looking about like how can we improve our current processes, and taking that mentality of like, oh, we have always done it this way, let's continue doing it this way.
No, worst things you can say, right?
Yes,
or
exactly. Yes, exactly. So it's always about making sure that you have time also as a business owner to keep like thinking about like, okay, where do I think the industry is moving to? Where is the next thing? So that has been very, very important too. And analyzing even our data, we were looking, okay, what are of our clients, who are our like or sectors that we're serving the most? How can we niche down too? So even with things like that, it has been important to take the time and reflect back, okay, like where are we spending most of the time? Where should we invest more? So yes, always making sure that we're looking back at what we're doing and evaluating it too. So when we just started doing that Loom video, we were actually embedding the video in the financials. Bad idea. We tried it for like a month and no one watched it. And we were like, okay guys, we're paying for like the subscription. We're Loom subscription. We're taking the time to record the videos and no one is watching it. Well, like, is it worth it? So always, whenever I make a decision as a team, like, and for the organization, always evaluating it. Like, was it right or was it wrong? And it's okay to be wrong because at least we tried.
That's it right there. You tried. Right, can you imagine how many other companies either didn't try at all or they tried and then they're just like, yeah, we do it now. That's how we do it now from this point on.
Yeah.
For decades or whatever. Not realizing like, hey, let's look at the data and see nobody's watching it.
Right.
Let's tweak a little bit.
Yeah, so that's when we started just sending an email directly and being like that it was easier because to get to the financials, they still had to go to the client portal.
It's so funny that you're saying this stuff because I'm like, if I would have gotten that email, no. It gets opened, maybe, if I'm stuck on a plane or something like that. But watching a 3-minute video, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Like you can do what you want. Yeah. Exactly. So, and it's pretty short. It's like you watch reels in Instagram or like nowadays TikTok or I don't know what people are watching things on. So yeah, so we decided to do that. So always like reevaluating things. And I think that as small business owners, all of us, we have a competitive advantage, which is that we can move fast. Like big corporations, like nothing against the big like CPA firms, the regional and national ones, but compared to us, we move pretty fast. We can get like implemented software so fast. We can implement new processes so fast. So we use that to our advantage instead of seeing like, oh no, like they have so much money, they have all these resources, trying to look at what are the competitive advantages that we as a small business owners have, which is like the relationships that we can create. They're not just like a number, so people feel more value, we can move fast. And even with like as business owners keep recruiting people, it's like creating that culture that will attract the right people. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Tell me, let's talk about people.
Yeah.
Because that's always a challenge for any business.
Yes.
You got 8 people, including yourself, which means that you're approaching that size where you almost need a manager.
Yes, which we do.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we have a director of operations. So she's also CPA. I worked with her previously.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was great to have that relationship with her. We worked together as auditors. So I knew her from then, and she had joined the team, and she's in charge of like making sure that she has like SOP set up. We worked on that together, and she also has become like that position I feel like any business owner should have, that believe on kind of like removing themselves from the weeds. Because having someone in a position of director of operation has allowed me to remove myself to work more on the business than be pulled, like for example, if the staff accountants or the senior accountants are like, oh my God, I don't know how to deal with this, then they go first to her. She's the one like making sure that we're meeting all the deadlines, and I'm pulled in only with certain clients or when things are getting very complex. So
awesome.
again, it's an investment at the beginning because, okay, at the point that I was about to hire her, I was like, well, I'm pretty much taking away from what I am like, you know, what I'm making and what I'm like, you know, growing into the capital, into the business. But it was an investment because, again, going back to the vision, I was like, well, that was scary, but I believed that, okay, it's going to be an asset and it's going to allow me to free up my time so that I can focus on what I can add the most value. So in my case, it's sales. I am the one that is bringing all the sales. So I am the one being more out there, so I needed to make sure that I gave myself time to be out there, to be doing the prospecting calls, to be going to networking events, to be going to like all sort of things, conferences.
Doing the hustling, sure.
Yes, exactly. So if I don't do that, then we're going to plateau because I'm pulling to the weeds. So that was the moment when I knew that I needed someone else to kind of replace me for like the more accounting work and tax work, so that I can like, I mean, I'm still involved, but I have been able to remove myself. I think that at this point I'm probably like 40% accounting and tax work and 60%.
Okay.
40 and 60. Did I say 40? I'm like, did I say, yeah. I'm like, you're like, I'm worried if you're bad with numbers.
Yeah, right. We're getting to 100 eventually.
Yeah. So I would say 40 and 60 pretty much, 60% on the business at this point.
Okay.
So that has really allowed me to focus on the growth and creating I never had a strategy plan. I didn't even have a business plan when I started the business.
Really?
No.
Okay.
So so now I'm actually sitting back and being like, okay, I think that at this point, I read a quote too that said like, what got you here will not get you to the next place.
Oh yeah, yep.
So I really took that to heart because I know that what got me to this point will not allow me to continue scaling up.
Yeah, it doesn't usually won't scale.
Yeah.
Right?
So I knew that I needed to do things different. So that was one of the reasons too, to start delegating work and making sure that I get finally a strategy. I have gotten mentors as well.
Nice.
I tapped into the resource of the Maryland Mentors, which is like a free community. Because again, like I'm still pretty young. So, you know.
We all are. It's all good. All good. Yeah.
So I'm trying to tap into the knowledge of other people. So I have been able to like talk to people that are in HR, other people that are like experienced CPAs that have been like in very big CPA firms that know everything about SOPs and how to set them up. So always reaching out to your network and also to people. People are so wonderful when you ask them genuinely, hey, I have this situation, this is what I'm thinking. They will give you your advice. First of all, they're going to be flattered that you thought like so highly of them. And yes, definitely, I have gotten to lunches, coffees, and people have been so willing to give advice. So that has been wonderful. So that has been another reason why we have been able to grow too, tapping into the resources that the community offers. There is a lot of help out there.
Oh, there's a ton, incredible
Yes.
amount. You get Small Business Development Center, you have SCORE, there's 5 million people offering coaching of some kind.
Yeah.
There's even just anyone that owns a business. If you call them up and say, hey, let me pick your brain over coffee.
Right.
In my experience, it's been pretty rare that they say no.
Yeah.
And it's also been my experience that if they say no, usually they don't want to admit what's going on behind the curtain.
Yeah.
So you don't want to talk to them anyways.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, so it's about that too, because I feel like one of the challenges that I have faced too, and I think that probably is common, is that as business owners, we are sometimes a little bit kind of like very alone with certain topics that, of course, like you don't want to like just open up to the whole team. Maybe because like maybe sales, maybe it's like, oh, we're not hitting the sales market. I don't want to.
Employee would be like, what?
Yeah.
No, might have a job.
Exactly. So, but you may want to talk to someone that has more experience in the industry regarding that, about like, okay, is this seasonal? How does this work? Should I be tapping into different like organizations, things like that? Or even if you have issues, no issues, but like challenges or things that you want to overcome with like communication or organizational structure within your business, you may not want to just open the floor, but you may want to tap into those like mentors or people that can like allow you to pick at their brains too.
Yeah.
That has been amazing for me because again, like it can get lonely.
Oh,
It can
yeah.
get lonely and very kind of like overwhelming, I think is the word, which, you know, we have to juggle so many things.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the game.
Right.
I have a small group that I meet with once a month.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just a few people, and they're all business owners that I would say are relatively the same as far as what they're pulling revenue-wise and stuff like that.
Okay.
But they're, one of them I like because she's retail. And so anytime that I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so tough to find employees, she's like, let me tell you
Oh, yeah, yeah.
how hard it is to find employees. And then my problem's like, yeah, I don't have a problem. We're good.
Perspective.
We're good. Yeah.
It's
So,
everything.
and then it's also because they're in different verticals, they can say, well, this is how we do it in our little neck of the woods.
Which is great.
And you can say like, oh, you know, why don't we do that?
Yes.
Or something of that nature. So it just, and it's people, I mean, to a point it's a little bit of a complaint session, but but it's not like you're just complaining to,
We're finding solutions.
like you just complain to a spouse or friend or something like that. These are people that are like, you don't get to complain unless you are actually interested in a resolution of some kind. And so that gives it some, like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. Here's the steps that we should take. Or here's perspective one, here's perspective two. And maybe they're opposing perspectives or maybe they're a little bit different, but it's just people that have gone through stuff.
Right.
And so they have some ideas. So that's been helpful for me.
That's awesome. I love the fact that they are in different industries. Because I think that what can happen to business owners is that if you, for example, if I only reach out to CPAs, I get in this silo of, again, going back to like, this is how the industry has always done it. But other industries may be going ahead and like, you know, like, let's think about like hairstylists, their social media, like I know
Boom, boom, boom.
they got it all. They're like always in the feed. They're like amazing at that, at like content creation and keeping people engaged. So there are things going on in different industries that we can always learn from. So I love that you do that. Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, it helps, I guess, because there's always going to be a problem or issue or challenge, whatever you want to label it, right? At some time that you have to deal with at any given moment, right?
Right.
But it also, I think it helps, or at least for me, it helps from a mental point of view.
Yeah.
I was even talking with people today over coffee. I ran into a guy that I hadn't talked to in years, and he was telling me about some employee issues. And I'm like, thank you so much for saying that, because I have employee issues. Everybody that I know that has employees has employee issues. But when I throw something on social media about employee issues, there's people that are not in business that are like, oh my gosh, James, you must be a huge pain to work for. And I'm like, or every one of the employees has some headache or challenge.
Yeah.
It's not to say that maybe I'm a pain in the butt to work for. I don't know. Probably am. But it's one of those where it kind of gives you a sounding board, or you know that you're not alone.
Yes.
That you're like, okay, cool. Everybody's got problems. Got it. We're all good.
Yes.
It's
And
not just me.
Yeah, no, that's so important too. And I faced that too with at the beginning when I was just starting out, I took so personal when people will say no to a proposal. I was like, oh my God.
Why do you hate me?
Why do you hate me? Like, what's wrong with me? I like, honestly, the first time that it happened, like, I felt like I didn't know my own, like, it took me to heart. Like, I was like, oh my God, I don't even know my value anymore. I'm like, people don't value me. I don't think I'm that actually smart. Like, I started like telling myself all these things. And then I met with someone that was a business owner, and they told me, that's going to happen a million times. That's normal. We all have been there. Like, that has nothing to say about who you are. And they were like, and let me tell you something, not everyone's going to like Victoria, and that's okay. That's just what the market is. So when that person told me that, I was like, oh. And he told me that he just had a conversation like that day, and he has been in business for like 30 plus years. And then like you're saying, it just made me feel, I'm like, I'm sorry you had to have that conversation and it didn't go well for you, but it makes me so happy.
Yeah, right.
Because it reassures me that like it's nothing wrong with me, but that's just kind of the challenges that come with business ownership.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can remember when I had my printer repair company, Amazon was just coming around, and I gave a quote for a printer, and they're like, I can get it on Amazon $10 cheaper or whatever, maybe the same price, whatever it was. It was they could just order it online for a similar price. And I remember thinking, I get this from a wholesaler, and I have to pay the wholesaler like you have to pay Costco. I have to pay the wholesaler in order to do business with them. So I call up the wholesaler, and I'm like, hey, man, how come anyone can go on the internet and buy this thing for cheaper than what you're offering it? Because I got to put margin on there. I'm like, what's the game here? And he just kind of gave me a shoulder shrug. And I was taking it so personal, like, don't you want to support small business, right? This is going on in my head.
Yeah.
Then I thought, what would I do if I was in their position? I do the same exact thing that they're doing. And I wouldn't think twice about it. And it's nothing against James or whoever, right? It's just, it's business.
Yes.
So I'm just like, all right, find a different game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another thing too that I have learned during this time has been that really kind of like I took to heart at the beginning. As a small business owner, when we're hiring people, sometimes we get too emotionally attached. And I remember one of the mentors telling me that, remember, Victoria, like, they are not your family. You are a professional team player.
Yeah, team, not a family.
Exactly. So knowing that, and that he made me understand too that, like, hey, eventually people are going to leave. That's a reality. So far, like, no one has done it yet. So I'm like, okay, but eventually it's going to happen. And I think that at the beginning when he brought that topic up, I felt already like a breakup. No one has left, but I felt like I was already grieving.
This is our family reunion every time we work, right? It's Monday.
Yeah. But yeah, so I came to peace to the fact that, like, hey, like, I have done it before. I have moved from one job to the other one. One of my prior jobs, like my prior bosses, like, I'm still very close to him. We still go out for lunch.
Oh, nice.
And I quit that job. So instead of him like being like bitter against me, like, no, he has always been there to support me. He understands that I'm following a different trajectory. So that has been pretty interesting to now understand and learn too, that we're a team, we're just a professional team, and we're always switching players.
Yeah.
You know, so that also has been another lesson that I have learned. And yes, and also I just recently had like a 360 review as well.
Okay.
So like all of the team gave feedback on myself. So yes.
All right. What'd you learn?
You don't want to do that?
Yes. I can only imagine. But I think it'd be worthwhile. Because it's kind of one of those, like, you don't necessarily know. I wouldn't know what people believe is wrong with me. I'm certain that they think something is wrong with me. But I'm also certain that there's going to be if I would do something like that, or when I should say, when I do something like that, that I'll be like, wait, what? Oh, I do that. One of those, like, wow. Because you're going, and you don't take the time to pause and say, huh, right?
Yes.
You're just going.
Yeah,
this is happening. Boom.
Yeah, no, that is true. And I think that, like, because it's always go, 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 I wanted to make sure that I like slow down and kind of hear their feedback too. Which actually, and sometimes I read in a book that was something like, your weaknesses, when you're trying to hide them, people like are seeing them. So being more honest and upfront about that and what you're working on sometimes make them like, oh, thank God she knows. We thought like she didn't know that she does this stuff. So I learned that I need to improve my communication skills and organization skills. So like you're saying, we business owners are go, 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 go. Sometimes I can start talking without telling someone what client is this for. And I just start talking. I say, oh, yes, it's depreciation table, and they bought this equipment. And they ask me, so what client are we talking about? Because I just have it in my head, and I think it makes sense. Who am I talking about? But I don't give context, for example.
All right, sure.
Or when I'm giving, like, I'm very scattered. Like, my best thinking time is when I'm driving.
Okay.
So I come up with like a lot of ideas, and sometimes, like for example, to my marketing team, like they are like, I tell them like, oh, this or this and that, and then I send them like a bazillion Teams messages, and they're like, well, can we concise it all in an email maybe, and then see like, okay, which one should we attack first, and things like that, because sometimes I can think so quickly that I can like just bombard people. So, and that was consistent across like all the team. So it was nothing like one person had it against me. It's like, how dare they? They have something against me. No, it was consistent. It was about like the communication skills and being able to like organize the thoughts better, and also knowing what is more priority than other things, giving more context too. So definitely I see it, and now when I have an urge to message someone that like it's just like scattered, like it's nothing very urgent, I either message myself or I email myself all my random thoughts, and then at the end of the day, I create like a concise email of like, okay, these are all the marketing things or like sales things that I thought of. Here it is, like what the idea is, the reason why, and the expected deadline, or how important it is.
All right.
So that they have, because otherwise they were like, I don't know what this even means, which is fair. Like I'm like, these two words make sense in my head.
Yeah.
But understanding that like different people hear different things and then process information a different way. So that has been like eye-opening, because like you, I'm always go, 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 go. I'm in my emails while I'm walking to places. I'm like, red light, oh wait, I can
got 30 seconds.
I can 30 seconds. Yes, I'm always on the go. Like I listen to podcasts and stuff like while I shower. Like I try to be as efficient as I can.
Yeah.
So understanding that like other people are not going at the same speed, and that's okay. But also making sure that that's not hurting efficiency in the team.
Right.
Because me going like at 1,000 miles does not do anything if I'm just putting all this confusion on people, and they're like, well, we don't know, and then they cannot move forward.
Because they don't have any direction with that information.
Yeah, so that has been one of the things that I'm working on making sure that I am more like organized and improving my communication skills. But again, like I was like, oh, I guess I'm communicator, but that's okay. At least now I know. I think that internally I knew, because even with my husband, sometimes he's like, what are you trying to say? So I guess I saw it coming.
Try to keep up, buddy. Try to keep up.
But now hearing it from them, like, yes, this is something that I need to work on, and now I'm more mindful and intentional. Another thing too that I learned was that someone brought up that they didn't feel value when we were not respecting internal meeting time, because then it felt like their time was less important than other people's time.
So you had a specific time for a meeting and it would go over?
Yes, exactly. And it was consistent. I was being like, I stand responsible. I was being a little bit bad. Like if it was internal, it was like, well, it's okay if I'm like 20 minutes late.
Late to the meeting. Oh, yeah.
Late.
Okay.
Late.
Yeah, okay.
So late to the meeting. So because we were all in the office, I was like, well, it's okay, it's fine.
Yeah, that's good. That's fine.
Yeah,
okay.
That was in my head, but in my head, it was never the intention to make anyone feel less appreciated or make them feel like their time is less valuable than mine or than anyone else's. But when she told me that, I was just shocked, because I was like, oh my God, that was never my intention. I was just like, well, we're all here, like, it's not a big deal. Like, we can always, like, recap at another time. And since then now, she told me that, I was like, oh, I never want anyone to feel that way. I am not more important than anyone else. Like, we all have different skill sets and we're coming together, but that's it. But since then now, I make sure that I put an alarm when we start, when we end, and I don't book back-to-back meetings anymore.
Okay.
Because the issue was if I had a client meeting right before that, when I ran over the time, then I usually was like, I just let it happen, and then all my other meetings start trickling down, and then
the
it's
Wisconsin goodbye, right? I'm going to say goodbye 12 times before I leave. Another 45 minutes.
Yeah. So that also has been something else that I'm working on. But again, like, I also had those mentors to hold me accountable. So I gave them all my summary of my 360 reviews, and I told them, okay, these are the things that I think I'm going to improve. I'm going to work this quarter on, and this is what action items I'm taking to improve them, like not getting like back-to-back meetings, putting alarm, making sure that now like I am not like emailing one little thing for every single thing that I'm thinking of, but concising it. So it takes an effort too to make sure that in order for the team to grow and be successful, I also need to change my mentality, because I think I still had the mentality of like just myself, like kind of like a selfpreneur kind of person, like, like just a solo flyer. So now making sure that as we keep growing the team, like making sure that also my mentality and my skill sets get aligned with who I need to become to get to the next level.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Who you need to become.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive. That is. Wow.
Oh, thank you.
Just
came natural.
Tell me who you need to become to get to the next level. That's amazing. It was all worth it right there. Podcast is over. I just summarized it in 10 seconds. Right? That's amazing.
Yes.
Wow. Who you need to become to get to that next level. So tell me about this 360 thing. Is this a questionnaire, or is this somebody interviewing them?
No. It's like a form with specific questions about like, okay, like one of them was like, what areas could I grow in more?
Could you?
Could I? Yes.
Okay,
so it was yes, no. So they had it for like, I think 3 weeks before our meeting. They came up with all of their answers, and this may be challenging for some people, but it actually was in person. So I met with every single one of them.
Okay, asking them the questions?
No, and they came
Tell me what you hate about me.
No, but practically. No, but really, yes. They came up with their answers, and then we just had like the conversation about it. And so it was mostly like a conversation.
Yeah. Was this a conversation that was everybody going through this for you exclusively, or everybody was going through this for everyone?
It was only for me and the director of operations.
Okay, okay. So it wasn't you alone?
Yes.
Okay.
But we had our conversations separately. So like, for example, like I will have a one-on-one with like one team member, then the next one.
This wasn't in a big group?
No.
No,
it was this was a very like one-on-one.
So you're going through the answers that they gave?
No, they are telling me, because they didn't send it to me until that moment.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Yes. And then they told me we start again, like we kind of like the positive, how like what things have been going well.
Yeah.
And another question, was about like the areas where I can grow. What was their wish for me, and how have I impacted their professional life too? So it was a lot of, overall it was pretty good, and they were all like, felt like, I think that it was a success by the fact that they felt pretty comfortable sharing all this stuff.
I was just going to ask, were some people just staring at the table like, oh, I gotta tell you what I wrote? No,
that was the cool thing too. It's like I felt pretty proud that everyone felt happy to tell me what I needed to grow on.
Yeah.
There was not even one person that was like, oh, you're perfect, you're amazing. Like, no, that one day maybe, but no.
Not today.
Not today. So that was a success on its own too. So again, like hearing the things that they truly valued, the other things that they felt like I can do better, it was very important to me, because again, like feedback means that they still care. And I'd rather hear it now than like later on
when they quit.
When they quit, and like, I always hate it when you did that.
And I'm like, another thing.
So yeah, so that, I mean, it was again like it's scary and it's uncomfortable, you know.
Right.
But I think that that's the only way to grow and to kind of like we were saying, like how can we continue improving and changing the old habits too? Because again, like I came from being an employee, I had my employee hat, so I feel like now with a team is way different. A lot of things that I used to don't understand about my prior employers, now they make perfect sense. I'm like, oh, that's what they meant. I should not have complained about that.
There are times when I'm talking to an employee and I think, I can't wait. Can't wait. Just like a parent saying to a kid, right? Someday you're going to have kids, right? Someday when you start a business, you're going to have this conversation with an employee and you're going to be like, oh, that's what was going on, right?
Yeah.
So just like a parent talking to their teenager.
Yeah.
Or something like that
Yeah,
when you have kids.
No, it is like that. It is, yes. So it has been a lot of learning and making sure that I change that mentality to be able to continue growing. Instead of making sure that, like, instead of making them fit to me, I feel truly that I need to continue evolving too. And again, I don't have as much time as I used to read. So I try to do a lot of podcasts, a lot of like audiobooks, things like that, but always trying to learn about, okay, what is out there? What can I do better? What things can I start implementing and see, does it work for me? I mean, a lot of things are out there about like feedback and all this self-development stuff. I try to take one thing, try it. Most of the time it does not work out for me. And I'm like, okay, next thing, what else can I try? And making sure that we're always trying different things, seeing how we can continue to grow. But yeah, and I almost think that it's almost like like in sports, you know how like they say like your mind gets there before your body. I feel like the same thing with businesses. If you get into that mind, then the business will get there too.
Yeah, because then you actually have an aim.
Exactly.
Sure, where you're going. Yeah.
So yeah, so it has been a long process. Feels longer. I actually feel like my body feels like it's been more than a year, but it's okay. It has been rewarding. I have laughed a lot. I mean, I'm not gonna say also that every day is just like roses and rainbows, because obviously as a business owner, that's not the case.
No.
There's like a roller coaster, but even like the bad days, I'm still happy that I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's the name of the game right there.
Yeah.
Right? Enjoy your business.
Right, yes. And it's supposed to bring us joy.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
One of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. So that has been kind of like the whole experience. Again, like I continue dreaming about like the next stage for us.
That is incredible to hear.
Yeah.
That you're always just looking at like what's next, what's next to growing. Because then employees are going to be like, okay, what is next? Or I hope the right ones will say that. And that's got to attract people. Clients will be impressed with that because they're like, okay, she's interested in growing.
Yeah.
So that's super cool.
And one of the things too that I always think is like with CPAs or with any, like you also want to, if I show that like, hey, like this is like the perspectives that we're using, and kind of like then other clients are going to be like, oh, actually we also want to grow, so we want to be surrounded by people that are, or businesses that are also in the same trajectory, that are also showing the same things. Because if I'm trying to sell like a forecast to a client, say, well, are you forecasting your own things? Like how, like, it's almost if you're trying to sell something to also be good at it.
Yeah. So, that's fair. That's fair. I used to always make fun. I shouldn't say used to. I still do. I make fun of business coaches that don't have their own business. Yeah. Or you think of a health coach that's overweight or something like that, or someone that's even a doctor that smokes. I don't know. Yeah. Something like that where you're like, I feel like you're not the expert that you're trying to portray yourself as.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yes, no, I feel the same way. That whenever I try to seek advice or surround myself with people, I make sure that like, do they actually do as they preach?
Huge.
Yeah,
Huge. My advice is so good, I don't take it.
But I want you to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, nailed it. Perfect.
So, yeah.
So tell me really quick, because I know we don't have a ton of time here, but your business, you're focusing less on taxes and more on a broader forecasting and all that jazz. Tell me about that, because I'm going to say I'm an ignorant business owner when it comes to numbers and stuff like that. I know the growing, the sales, the marketing, you rah rah,
Yeah.
all that. But forecasting is something that I'm just like, we're going to be more and better. I hope. So tell me about that
Yes.
end.
Yes. So so again, what we do is like financial statement preparation. So like on top of the bookkeeping, some clients have their own bookkeepers, like internal personnel, or we come and do that as well, like bill pay, invoicing, all of that. Then we do the financial statements. So that's almost like the transactional part, let's say.
Okay.
Then it comes more of like the kind of like controller services or almost like CFO services would come with like the budgeting, the forecasting. So what that means is that, okay, we look at your historical data. We're like, okay, you have been growing 5% every month, every quarter. Then we have that historical data. Then after that, we can project your future. And then we can also know what costs you have variables and fixed costs. So like if you sell a service, in my case, what we're selling, we have hours, right? So we have employees. So that's a driver for revenue. So, but at the same time, it's going to signify a payroll expense, payroll taxes, benefits, all of that good stuff. So what we do is that we build these models with all these drivers so you can see when is the best time to hire someone financially, how is that going to affect your cash flow. And they usually do that a lot for like tech companies because when they're trying to raise more money, they're saying like, okay, you're saying that you're going to hire all these people, you're going to like buy all this equipment. How is that going to affect what sales are you projecting? So it helps a lot, but it also helps, like we have one client that they were thinking of hiring different staff, but they wanted to know when was the best time for cash flow. Because they also were planning on buying some equipment. So they had different things moving on, going on with their business. So what we do is like, first of all, you need to have good transactional data. So like your books need to be clean because we're basing that to the future. Then the forecast portion comes to like, okay, this is what we believe is going to happen. And at least then the clients know when to make the decision, when is the best time. They have worst case scenario, best case scenario, and they actually can make goals for like, okay, this means that I need to have this much revenue if I want to hit that goal.
All right.
So it creates this like kind of like bring into like reality and step by step these like ideas. Like I can say like, well, I want to be 20 people in a year firm. Well, what does that really mean? How much money do I need to make? And what levels am I going to hire? If I hire a staff accountant, a manager, it's going to be this much, it's going to be this much. How many workable hours are in a day? What will be the billable rate that I need to put to the client? What do I need to do? Do I pay them less? Do I increase my billable rates? Like there's all these different variables that I can see all in one model, understanding, okay, so what different moving pieces do I need to change to get to my end goal of making this much money?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of like looking in the crystal ball.
Sure. So are you projecting out a year or 3 or months or quarters or
So we do. So some clients we do it up to 5 years.
Oh wow.
But we recommend doing it like up to 1 year to do more like precise.
Sure.
But again, like the people that usually ask, like business owners that ask for 5 years are usually more the ones that are looking for like Series B like funding and things like that have multiple investors and they want to kind of like project far ahead. Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. Interesting. And then are there other facets of what you guys do?
Yes, so we do. Yeah, so we do the tax preparation and tax planning. Again, we like to think of tax preparation and like the tax return as a byproduct because, for example, next month we're going to be meeting with all of our clients that are small business owners, S corporations, partnerships, that we need to sit down with them and be like, okay, this is what your year has been so far. This is based on this is what we project you're going to make at the end of the year. I mean, pretty much, these many months have gone past. We know pretty well how much money you have made, how much money you're going to make the last quarter. So we can know how much are you going to owe in taxes so that you're never surprised. Because I used to be in jobs that like clients were like, well, I didn't know I was going to have this bill, so I was not prepared for this. So we never want to have that conversation. And if they're going to owe money, if we do it in September, the tax planning, then they still have plenty time to make things change. So maybe they decide to like hire more people. They decide to buy an equipment that they were thinking of buying either way. They can do like more retirement contributions. There is multiple things that we can do to reduce the tax bill. when it's not January? And it's like, well, there's very little at this point.
Yeah.
So we do the tax planning, the tax preparation, forecasting and budgeting, and the financial statements.
Nice.
Yeah, so we try to be like a full-on house for all the services. And again, like the advisory, and kind of we try to be proactive too. So whenever we see something that like, hey, have you guys thought about this? We always try to be proactive instead of reactive. We always want to be ahead of the client because they're paying us for advice, and for us to be watching out what's happening with new legislation, new things that can affect them, instead of being them like, hey, I heard in TikTok that this thing was going on. Like we don't want clients to be them bringing us the stuff to us, but we want to always be ahead and be us bringing them the information ahead of time.
It's funny you say that, because I was the guy that got the big tax bill this year for last year. And I went to my accountant and I said, hey, I saw on YouTube, what about this? And he was like, yeah, you could do that. And I'm like, why didn't, you could have given me a little heads up, little like, hey, James, have you ever thought of this? Or, hey, have you considered this? Or, hey, I'm a guy that you're paying a lot of money to know stuff like this, so here's some options.
Yeah.
Instead of me looking on the web
Yeah.
and typing in something like how to save money in taxes, right?
Like the most basic.
And the top 3 videos that come up
Had that.
I say, hey, can I do this stuff? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
not cool.
Yeah.
Not cool. Because I would hate to be the guy. I was the guy, but I was forced in the position of being the guy. But when I was fixing whatever, I used to be a mechanic a while ago, and I would hate to be the guy under the hood and have the client say like, hey, client, here's what's wrong with your car. And the client being like, well, have you checked this? And I'd be like, huh, that's a good idea. Like, no. Or I just imagine being a doctor, like, hey, you got cancer, blah, 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 blah. And someone's like, I saw this commercial, what about that? And the doctor's like, huh, yeah, we could try that. No.
Right, yeah, no.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. I feel like if the professional person that you are paying is in a position where they can get essentially taught by the client from something that the client found on the internet, I'd be embarrassed as that professional.
No. Yes, absolutely. But it happens quite often. I don't think it's because they lack sometimes the expertise, but because sometimes people overserve, like they have too many clients, too much volume. So that's something that I see a lot in the CPA industry. It's like they focus on volume more than the quality of the work. So again, like if you're working with like last year, I think we only prepared about like 45 tax returns.
Wow.
When a traditional CPA firm, every partner would probably do between like around 300 tax returns.
Hundreds.
Like 300 to 500. When you're looking at that many, again, it's more likely that you're not going to know the ins and outs, and you're not going to like be looking too closely about what else can we do,
or even care, right?
You're just trying to move along the work.
Churn and burn. Yeah, I learned after talking with many people, CPAs and other business owners and stuff like that, that there are tax people where you give them the numbers and they, like a machine, spit out what you owe. And apparently that's what my guy was. And then there's tax strategists who are like, okay, this is a game. What if we move the pieces this way? What could be the results of the game? Which that sounds like way better and more like what you do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's different business models, but
but it's funny that you say that, because I, as this ignorant business owner, I'm in my own little silo for doing business. Like I got my call answering service, so rah, this is my shingle call answering service. But no one pulled me aside and said, hey, CPA can mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
So just because you hired an accountant doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do the things that you'd like them to do.
Right.
They're going to do whatever they feel like that nomenclature means. Like no one pulls you aside like that.
Yeah, no, that is true. Yes.
Because I even asked, I don't remember who I asked, but I'm like, okay, CPA, Certified Public Accountant, is there another three-letter acronym that I should be looking for so that I don't have to go to YouTube? What is the thing that I should look for to find somebody that does the thing? And they're like, no, they're all CPAs. So then I was thinking, oh, well, we got to come up with another
I
acronym
know,
or
another
something.
acronym too, yeah.
Say like, I will actually look at your numbers instead of
Yeah.
just entering them, or
Yeah.
something of that nature, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah.
So I think you got an awesome thing going.
No, yeah, no, thank you. That's what we're trying to do, like focusing on the value creation. Because it's also no meaningful work for us if we are just plugging in numbers. Again,
I would
like,
hope not.
yeah,
So boring.
right? So that's not the fun part. The fun part is to like, and we have talked to the rest of the team. The fun part is like creating the videos, telling them what it means. Yeah.
I would get excited if I was an accountant. I'm totally not. But if I was, I would get excited for a client if I could save them money. And if I'd be
Right.
like, I just saved you $50,000 in taxes.
Yeah.
I would feel just this rush of like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't. Maybe accountants don't do that. I don't know.
No, we do. We're pretty cool.
Okay. Nice. You may be the anomaly. So from my experience, pretty sweet anomaly. So it's just one of those things where I'm like, don't you want to look? And even if it's not just for me, just this little, I don't know, there's probably some rule or write-off or something that you could use that little piece of knowledge for half your clients.
Right.
Even just the mileage deduction alone. I didn't know what the options were for mileage deduction.
Okay.
So I had a
Was that the thing that you found in YouTube?
It was.
Oh, okay.
It was. So yes. So let me back up a step, I guess, to be specific about that. And keep in mind, I'm not an accountant.
Yeah.
But there's a few different ways
yeah.
to do that. And I was doing it one way. And then I learned about this other way on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I go to my accountant and I'm like, can I do that? And he was like, yeah, you can. And I then followed it up with, okay, I know I can. I'm doing it this way. Tell me pro con. Like, why would I not do it that way?
Yeah.
And they lean back and they're like, well, and I'm like, well, this should be pretty straightforward. We're talking about mileage deduction. The rules of the game are pretty straightforward.
Yeah. We're not talking about like new legislation that
No, no.
Yeah.
So I'm like, from my point of view and my little 10-minute YouTube video that I watched, this makes sense. So tell me, if I were to do it that way, would you roll your eyes and say, oh my gosh, James, that's a terrible way? Or would you think, yes, that's the way, you picked the right one? Or like, I felt like I was working a Ouija board talking to him. Just
Ouija
give
board.
me, like I feel like I'm paying you for an answer where I say, I drove for business.
Yeah.
What is the best way financially to figure this out? And they're just like, you have options? It's like, no. I know I have options. I know I do. Help me pick the option. Because I assume that they were
They were
they're
working
the
out for your
smart
best
one because
interest.
they're the ones that I'm paying to be smart.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So the IRS got a few extra bucks for the past 15 years, 20 years, a while.
Thank you for your donation.
Yeah. They need it so bad. So yay. So what are some things, I guess just really quickly, we don't have a ton of time.
Okay.
But let's say top 3 things that you wish small business owners would know about accounting. That you just wish they walked through the door, they already know this, you don't have to educate them.
Wow, that's a tough one. I guess. So first of all, accounting is important. I think
right there.
that yes, that it is the blood of your business. Again, like cash is so important. We need to understand what's going on in our business. I know we get busy, and a lot of small business owners are like, well, I do it every like quarter. Well, you should do it more often than that, like bookkeeping and all of that type of stuff. So accounting is important. Do not think that it's like a just tedious task. Record keeping, it actually can help you give you a lot of information. Second of all, find a good accounting software. Like invest on like it's not that expensive. I think it's about like $50 per month with QuickBooks Online. Something that you can use to automate transactions so that you don't have to spend too much time doing it is super important. So finding a good one. Don't just use Excel or paper because it's very easy that you can make a mistake. You may be missing out on deductions for future tax. And also tax planning. If your business is expecting like a lot of growth or things are changing, be proactive about it. Talk to your tax professional about it ahead of time. Because after December 31st, there is very little that can be done at that point. So know that you need to be proactive about it. And also, one more thing, not because it was okay to do last year, it means that you should be doing the same thing. So we have a lot of owners that are like, oh, I have always been a Schedule C. I'm all Schedule C, my 1040, this is what I have always done. But it's like, no, wait a second. Like, your situation is now different than what it was 5 years ago. Does it still make sense for you to be this type of entity for tax purposes? So making sure that no, because you were always that, it means that you're always going to have to be that. You can change to a different tax entity, like an 1120S.
All right.
So always know that no, because you did something in the past means that is going to work for this year. Like, things change. Like you're saying, you need to like be proactive and see what is the most beneficial that year.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Victoria, thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely.
How can people find you?
Yes, so you can find me in social media with Novi CPA and Victoria Thayer. I'm very active in LinkedIn, so please visit us online on our website too. You can subscribe to our newsletter so you can get awesome accounting and tax tips. And yeah, I hear that it's pretty. They enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, the newsletter.
I bet. That's exciting.
Yes.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. Oh, there's more.
Also, one more thing.
But wait.
I'm actually starting. But wait, there is more. Yes, I'm starting like a little small podcast with tax tips.
Nice.
Yes, it's starting like in a month from now. It's going to be a very quick 5-minute podcast with tax tips. So coming up soon.
So yours is a podcast that I'm going to end up finding when I have my CPA saying, hey, you owe me.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I hear it here.
Victoria online told me.
Yeah, exactly.
Could be. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. This has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphs and successes of business owners across the land. And Authentic Business Adventures is brought to you by Calls on Call, offering call answering and receptionist services for service businesses across the country on the web at callsoncall.com. And of course, the Bold Business Book, a book for the entrepreneur and all of us, available wherever fine books are sold. We are locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. If you're listening or watching this on the web, if you could do us a huge favor, give it a big old thumbs up, subscribe, and of course, share it with your entrepreneurial friends, especially those that have to pay taxes. Which that happens to be all. We'd like to thank you, our wonderful listeners, as well as our guest, Victoria Thayer, owner of Novi CPA. Victoria, can you tell us that website one more time?
Yes, novicpa.com.
All right, that's Novii.
Yes, novicpa.com.
I love it. Past episodes can be found morning, noon, and night. The podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week. I want you to stay awesome. And if you do nothing else, enjoy your business.